agenda. That's right, exactly. You ready? He's on vacation. All right, good morning. It's 11:04. We'll call this meeting to order. We have our smallest agenda ever, and we've got the most people here. I don't get it. We could have like 15 resolutions to get one person here. Now we got two. We got half the town here, so it's been enough chairs so far. All right, first thing on our agenda is the consent agenda for the June 26, 2024 meeting minutes. I'll make a motion we approve them as presented.
Hey, Mike, I've got a question.
All right.
Under the SULI, or the hotel bond payment section,
Okay. Page.
8.
All right.
It's that middle bullet point there. It mentions 42,882, and then the motion was for 43,882, but there was no trustee fee or anything, so I didn't know if that was intentional. I wasn't here, or if not, which
You're
one?
talking about the last bond payment, Mike? Or,
On page 8 here, I circled it for you. Which of those, or if it was intentional, is there a $1,000 difference there for a reason? If not, which one's right?
yes, well, that was the way Mike approved it. And so I went ahead and put it in that way. Yeah, I think there was $1,000 fee on that one, if I remember right.
Well, it
Do you
says
guys
there
have-
that that was paid previously,
Previous.
so there wasn't a fee.
Well,
That's what made me question it.
I think there's a $1,500 on that resolution before. There's a $1,500 fee there. I don't think there was a fee on that one.
And that's what it says in the narrative there, is that there isn't one.
That was what was
Yeah.
discussed.
Right. So if not, then does it
so we
really
could,
need to be
yeah,
the
so if
motions?
we want, we could amend it. I think when Mike read it, it was 43, and I went ahead and wrote it that way,
Okay.
just to follow through with the action, but that's fine. We can amend it
So
to
amend
42.
it down to 42.
That's easy to do.
I don't know which amount was right though, but I mean, whichever we do change.
The 42, because it's, I can go back and look at the resolution, but I'm sure
Okay.
that's right.
Okay.
Mine too.
Okay. Maybe with that correction, I would second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, next on the, in the old business, we got our spring 2024 disbursements. And I'll just spend a few seconds to explain that. It is this page that's kind of on its side. And this basically shows you basically what originally Baker Tilly would recommend, or they would suggest what they thought the amount would come in would be, the projected amount. So you've got basically a column there that says projected 2024. I got an asterisk, and that basically is what came in the spring. We're assuming it'd be the same second. Our experience here is that there are a lot of folks that make their full year's payment in that first payment. Mm-hmm. So we were expecting $950,000 to come in. We got $1,042,000 that came in. Most likely, it'll be a lower amount in that next column down. But then you can also, at the bottom of the sheet, we actually got some money from Lexington Village, which is kind of interesting, $546. I have no idea where that came from, but anyway, there's no houses built there, so it just must have been on the land itself. I think there was some time where the land switched over from the city to us, and then at that point, the county, whenever you switch over, even though it was taxed a year before, it's taxed until the paperwork's all done or whatever, so that's I think where that comes from. So then you also see that at the bottom, in 2023, we had $1.3 million total at this point, and we're up to a projection of $1.9 million this year. So we're going to have potentially another $500,000 that's coming in from that. And again, to those visitors here, with all the stuff that's happening in town, that the way that the TIF district works is that whatever the value of something is, when there's an incremental change to that, so like, for instance, when you have the parking lot up there and then you put in Dunkin' Donuts, that will raise the value of that land, and that difference is what comes to the TIF board, so that we go out and give money to encourage economic development and provide money for those kind of things, and then that money comes back to us through increased property taxes, and it's that incremental part where we get that. So, the way things have been going recently, we're gonna continue to see some of the more available money to do more things, and the idea is that you get money and then to try to take and you start to develop an area, and then you can use money to continue to develop those further areas in that section or in other parts of town. So anyway, that's basically the information there. We've distributed that out. You'll notice in the financial pages, it's going to be already parsed out for you there as to where it all went to, and those have been deposited into those accounts. Okay, that's just for information. Now we'll go on to next, which is the financial reports. We have both the June 2024 TIF and non-TIF district funds. We also have the June 2024 Lexington Village residential TIF. And as I say, those reflect the money coming in. You'll see there's at the top of each of those financial sections, you'll see there's a darkened number there which shows you the distribution. So you'll see your interest that's been coming in so far this year, and then you'll see the dark number is the spring distribution for that district, and it's broken down. Each one's in there. So that's all been deposited into the checking accounts for those various TIF funds. Other than that, not much different. Okay. All right. So I will make a motion to accept the June 2024 TIF and non-TIF district funds and the Lexington Village Residential Fund. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
The only question I have, Mike, and it's not, I know it's so annoying.
I love it.
So annoying. Is that $3,000 account? So it was going to close. One of the accounts was going to close.
We were going to close the
issuance.
residential issuance bond account, and that got closed, I think, last week.
Okay.
When Rob got it
Yeah.
done. And all the interest from that got moved with the amount into the interest account to be used for payments
Yep,
for the
great.
bond.
Okay.
I basically work off the bank statements.
Yeah.
So until it shows up as having happened here, but yes, that was voted on. That will change. I'm going to guess it'll be on next month's statement. That'll
Yeah,
be
you'll see, next, in fact, next month there won't be, that statement won't be there after next
Great.
month.
right.
So-
Good deal.
All right.
So all in favor?
All right. So all in favor, signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. All right, moving on to new business. We have Amy Dinsborn here. She was here last month to talk about the educational and training fund, which is the same thing we've done in the past with the Century Career Center. She had something she mentioned to us last month about the outdoor educational center for Lewis Cass. And do you want to come up and take it to the next level?
So, Amy Dinsborn, I'm a science teacher at Lewis Cass, going on my 18th year. And last meeting, I just had some rough estimates, and from some of those were from Jan, not to put her on the spot, but, and the commission asked me to reach out and try to get those estimates down, and I did. I reached out to Matt Llewellyn, who's been a tremendous help. So, he is going, for the Live United, going to put the structure together. And then he got me some estimates for the cement work, and that I believe is in your packet. And then Ryan Zeck is going to do the labor for laying the cement pad for the pavilion. And Mike McCord, so generous, and it's going to help with the picnic tables, and that's going to be part of his Live United project. I went and looked at those, and I'm thinking about the 8-foot just stained, so they look like nature.
Yeah.
So, and I think they wrote it for not to exceed 46.9. So the pavilion's just like the ones at Spencer Park, and there's one at Bishop, I believe. And they came highly recommended because no birds can nest, and I didn't even think of that until Mike mentioned that last month. So when you go out there, it's not like you have to clean the table off. You can sit down and get ready to go and all that. So I'm really excited, and I hope it goes through because we spend a lot of time out there. We sit on the grass, so it would be nice that we can sit at tables and they can write and all that. So.
My only question, Amy, I wasn't here last month. I read the minutes, which are verbatim for the most part. But, you know, that Indiana code, I just wanted, just for the record, you know, it says that any other programs designed to prepare individuals to participate in competitive and global economy. So, like, what's being built, I just wanted, it will help prepare individuals to participate in the competitive and global economy?
It absolutely will.
Okay.
I think that the fund we were talking about, the line item was actually quality of life. So absolutely.
Okay.
And through my PowerPoint, I mentioned all the things that could be avenues that these students take. And,
Great.
We have one of our students, Dane Hill, who is he's kind of a world-known entomologist now. He graduated from Purdue. So there's a lot of success. We have another student that's head of the FFA, not FFA, what is it, 4-H thing?
County Extension Office.
County Extension Office, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good deal. I just want to make sure, as, you know, people see these dollars and they want to take advantage of them or make requests, that, you know, we have to abide by this Indiana code, and you're doing that, so thank you.
And I think the way the resolution states, it actually is going to go out of quality of life, not out of the training fund. So that is, we have had, I can't think of his name, but there's another gentleman out there that's been talking about their career center and to what they may do. There's some interesting stuff there where they're using multiple schools to do stuff, and some of the kids are there not from Cass County, and so I've not heard back from him, so I think he's doing some research. But this one will actually show just his quality of life and not off of that.
But regardless, they're TIF funds, right? And so,
Right.
you know, we're able to expend a certain amount of
Right.
funds, but they all have to, because they're TIF funds, they need to be tied back to
Right.
the local economy and,
Right. Oh,
yeah, and that's
yeah.
what's happening.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think there's, well, aren't there like, isn't like, there's a science, aren't there like two different kind of classes that were out there? Was all science classes?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of AP Bio, AP Environmental, then all the ag classes, and
Ag
then our biology, earth
Great.
space, and then it just goes on down.
Great.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
that was Mallory, very cool.
Yeah, yes, that's exactly who it was.
Yeah. So,
But I've not heard back from him, so I don't know. I'd say I'd had some initial questions on just the way that we had done with the Century Career Center. There were just some stuff where it wasn't clear what all was being taught at Lewis Cass, and that they're busing kids at different places, and it was also, you know, so it was needed to be Cass County, needed to come from the industrial park, and so, and again, so.
I think,
That's a
I
good
would say
question.
during the presentation, I think last week, or last month, John Michael, they
Yeah.
had, she had the numbers for the students, and it's like.
saw that.
Yeah, it's like 3/4 of
Yep.
the students you're.
280,
impacting
290,
with that
something
are
like
going to be using it.
Yep. Great.
All right. I'll make a motion to accept resolution 2024-339 in not to exceed $46,900 to be paid to Lewis Cass, who will allow them then to pay all the subcontractors they have.
Is it okay if we have Dwayne pay the vendors?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that be,
I think I wrote it to say that it could be both ways.
Either way,
right?
yeah.
just because
We could
there's-
either
That's fine.
reimburse.
there's been a lot of transition out there.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I just feel more confident with, and it's only 3.
Right.
Would be,
What they'll need to do is when they do, sometimes we run this problem where they will send a bill to Lewis Cass, they'll need to send a bill to the redevelopment commission and at who's being billed, and then we pay
so
that.
it'll be you and
Yeah.
then this,
Right.
Matthew and
Yes,
Ryan
yes.
with the cement and
Yeah,
then the shelter.
that can work.
So that just, I think that, I trust that.
That's fine.
A little,
We go either way. I mean, sometimes it's, I mean, that's actually the way we usually prefer to do it. We're paying the vendor directly to make sure they actually get the work done before we pay it.
yeah. And then if
But-
it comes in a little bit below that 46.9, then there's not any
Right.
confusion
Right.
with
True.
that. So,
True.
thank you.
All right.
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion?
I just want, Amy, thanks for the work on this. I appreciate it. You know, I know you went back out and talked, and I'm glad to see Matt Llewellyn is going to actually pour concrete, so.
Yeah, he has been really helpful.
Good.
All right. Any other discussion? No? All those in favor signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Wait a second. I'm going to abstain since our company may be providing some materials. So, all in favor signify by sign aye.
Aye.
One abstain. One abstain. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Next, we have the Dykeman Golf Course property purchase. Mr. Rosie? And you can bring up maybe you want, you can bring up all the guys if you want to. You can.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I appreciate you giving us some time today, and, you know, I know that Kyle and Dean here next to me feel the same way, and, you know, we're here for a pretty big ask today, and I don't take those things lightly. We've been doing a lot of big asking in the last couple of years, and proud to say that almost all of that has been successful. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time, you know, rehashing all of the things and all of the information that I've given you in advance, because I think that's kind of the point of giving you the information so that you can be more prepared today and we can be efficient. There's a couple of things I do want to say, just kind of bigger picture. So one, just to be clear, we're asking for basically $250,000 to help us purchase, really to purchase, a portion of a cornfield that's next to the fourth hole at Dykeman that's owned by the Myers family. And that's about a 10-acre tract. And Kyle and I have been in, I'll call them soft negotiations with the Myers family for the last 3 or 4 months, maybe longer, maybe even 5 or 6 months now, trying to get a meeting of the minds so that we at least had a soft commitment that we trusted and that we could come and try to seek out, or we would seek out some funding to satisfy that commitment. So we knew we couldn't, you know, commit to anything without having the money, but we've got the Myers family from the point where they frankly didn't want to sell it all to the point where they wanted to sell us 85 acres for a whole bunch of money. And eventually, after kind of continuing to talk and communicate with them, we were able to get them to agree to offer up this 10 acres, which really is all we need, for $250,000 plus interest. They do want some interest because there'll be installment payments. And I talked to Bill Cuppy about that. Basically, I just asked Bill, I said, what's your opinion about what interest rate we should be using? And he told me that the 3-year T-bill would be the most appropriate because we were kind of looking at that installment plan.
Yep.
So
That's
it's about 4%.
Yeah, 4.23, and so that's what's listed here, and that was my only question I had, was where that came from, and then if we decide to pay it off sooner, is there any issue with paying off, you know, principal rather than, you know, sticking with this $260,000, because we won't, just looking at interest rates today, we're making 5.25%, and if we decide to pay it off sooner, would that be okay?
Yeah, I don't think so in this case.
No, they want it-
The reason why is there's 2 things here, if I may. One is I actually had another conversation with the Myers family last night, and now they're willing to actually extend it out another year. So instead of having this upfront 1/3 payment this year and then a 3-year installment, they're willing to move that to 4. And I actually had another table run just so we could see what the But the reason why they don't want to take the, they don't want the accelerate payment is because they're doing some Medicaid planning.
I got it.
They've got some family issues that really have slowed down our conversations respectfully, you know, but that's why, because they've
Okay.
got some financial issues of their own they're kind of dealing with. So,
Okay.
if that answers your
Yeah,
question.
it does, I understand.
But they are willing to, I know it's the opposite of what you're suggesting, but they are willing to stretch it out over really what would be 4 total years. 1/3 this year, and then the remaining 2/3 over the next 4 years, which I think if you look on your payment schedule, it was about $65,000 a year after the lump sum this year.
Yeah.
I think when I looked at the math, it would reduce it to about $50,000 a year roughly, something like that. So they're willing to do that. Otherwise, you know, I had a chance to go back and kind of look at really some of the documents from the kind of the start of this program, which was 3 years ago when Kyle and Dean and I put together, and I think Mike Bowditch, I can't remember, Mike's back here, he's on the committee. Chad Higgins is on the committee. Jan Foley, of course, is kind of our navigator, and she's been fascinating, you know, just fabulous to work with, and I really mean that. I've never worked with Jan, and I really have enjoyed this. But went back and looked at the survey that we did 3 years ago, because we were interested in what the community wanted, you know, and what golfers wanted. And when we did the survey, I would note that of the 168 responses that we got, the 4 priorities were the clubhouse, number 1, the driving range, number 2, the cart pass, number 3, food and beverage, and number 4. We're checking all of those boxes if you're willing to, you know, assist us with this purchase. So we're going to check all 4 of them. We're getting a clubhouse. They're going to start building this fall. The driving range, of course, will be number 2. The cart pass, the county has, you know, committed $300,000 for those, and they're going to put those paths in. I talked to Kurt Brandstatter the other day. The target date right now is September 1. And then, of course, food and beverage would change because we're going to have a new clubhouse with new facilities. So I think that's just really cool that we're kind of right on target in terms of our priorities, even though we really haven't had those things all in mind in that order. And frankly, this driving range was really not on our priority list because we knew that we had monetary limitations and just some practical limitations.
Land limitation.
Yeah, we were
That was
just,
the
yeah,
possibility.
just geographic ones. So, but this thing has culminated and kind of evolved into where we are today. And I think this is, I think I mentioned in my letter, this is kind of taking this project from a 4-star Google project to a 5-star project. You know, and there's a lot of expressions. It's kind of the cherry on top, you know. those
Checks
kind of
all the
things.
boxes
It
for
does.
us. And one thing is it helps us with parking. It takes out one of our options on this for another cart barn, so it saves us money there. We're able to move the clubhouse to where the driving range is now and use one of the cart barns we already have. So, I mean, it really, you know, checks all the boxes. I mean, it makes this project complete. And I mean, that's on the project side. Now on the community side, being able to have a full-size driving range would be a generational thing. I mean, it's, you know, there's not really a normal driving range in town. Ours is, you know, small. It's leans a little bit when you stand on it and everything. So it's something that I always, you know, wanted, never thought it could happen. So it's very exciting for the potential.
Bill Cuppy, thanks, Dean. Bill Cuppy was kind enough to put together an email to you folks on July 17th, and he bullet pointed, you know, of the reasons why he was in support of the project. Of course, we support and believe in those same reasons. There's one other thing that I would note here that that's not on here, and I think that it does merit some consideration. You know, to the extent that this project is complete and to the extent that there's a private-public partnership here, which there is, it sets an example, you know, it sends a message for other people in the community who are potential philanthropists, you know, people who have resources and they're trying to figure out what to do with their resources. Like, for example, 10 years ago, it might have been the Houston family, you know, that decided, hey, we're going to pony up and we're going to do something for the community. And the idea that our, you know, municipal bodies and our private citizens are willing to reinvest in our resources to try and make them better, I think sends a real message to people that we care about these things, and it it could promote some further development even moving forward. And I'll tell you, I've had some private conversations with some of the Myers family members, and, you know, there's other thoughts about what might happen to the rest of that cornfield at some point. They're not going to be discussed today, but, you know, that's not something that I don't think this is necessarily the end of that developmental situation. And so, you know, I'd like you to think about those things too, because I really do think that this is a very concrete, tangible example of how we're willing to reinvest in our community. And I think that people like the Dykeman family 100 years ago, you know, it'll be 100 years that they dedicated this land next year, or 2 years, 2026, I think. You know, other families that have resources may be more inclined to offer these things up if they know that we're going to reinvest in them. So that's just something I was thinking about as I was driving the other day, and I took a note of that. Otherwise, I'm not going to talk anymore. I can talk forever, but I've given you all the information, and I'm just going to answer questions and let Kyle do that as well, or Dean, if you have any.
Questions?
We're all looking at you, John Michael.
I know, I'm thinking, I was thinking, this isn't necessarily the place to ask it, but I'm just curious about it generally. You comment on the revenue that's generated by the driving range today at $15,000 a year. And, you know, this is going to be a phenomenal golf course. The facilities are going to be excellent. I look around and I see things in other communities. I was over at Wildcat Creek the other day with their kind of quasi Top Golf.
Yeah.
And it's not like so complex. It's a simple facility with some added functionality, make it a little more three-season type-esque. But I don't know the cost and then the revenue. So I don't know if you guys have thought about anything like that as you're making these types of investments to become, you know, create a profit center.
We haven't thought about that far.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of a little bit newer technology
Yeah.
too. Haven't been over there, but I've been to one similar to that.
Yeah.
That looks phenomenal over there,
Yeah.
what they've done with that. But we would develop it more into a practice facility in the sense of, in time, a chipping area. The T station, where our thought is we would have a concrete pad in the back of it. So in the spring and the fall, when it's wet, you know, we can still have turf out there, AstroTurf for people to hit off of.
Okay.
And that's big for the schools. I've had pretty much all the schools over the years in Cass County come to me and say, can we use your facility at all? And we host Logan, you know, and Logan middle school teams. If we have a driving range like this, we could offer all the schools, you know, some time on the driving range, you know. And especially in the springtime when, you know, they have middle school teams and stuff, and, you know, you get 40, 50 kids up there, you know, would have to kind of arrange for the time. But it wouldn't, I don't see us going that far right now. It's not saying that we don't do something like that in the future.
Yeah.
But I do believe that it would be more extended use.
Yeah,
you
great.
know. And one of the things we would do is we would put a barn on that, right at the edge of that, next to our maintenance barn, you know, which we already were going to do a cold storage facility. So we were kind of waiting to think that we could move it over there. We would have a little awning by there to where we would have a vending machine for the range balls. So, you know, people wouldn't have to go to the clubhouse and, you know, stuff like that, which, to be honest, is a big deal for people sometimes when they're new to golf and they like being by themselves, you know. I mean, I was at the bank the other day, and Preston was asking me about it and stuff, and he wants to kind of be not around a lot of people when he starts playing and practicing and stuff. And so that's a big deal, but I mean, it is going to be extended. Yep. You know, I think the season would definitely be extended. Well, right now, we hit down into a hole. Right. You know, you've all seen how that floods and the balls plug and stuff, and we have to keep it closed when it's wet.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's, you know.
Okay. Like I said, not necessarily the scope of your.
Right, because we're still looking at, you know, I mean, I haven't put pen to paper exactly, but I mean, it's going to be, take some money, develop grass seed, build the T-station, the concrete, the machinery that we would need,
Yep.
get the vending machine and stuff, so we're gonna have,
Great. I don't have any other questions, Brad. I thought your presentation and you had it laid out. It was easy to understand. The 4 years, I mean, the longer term makes it more digestible for us on an annual basis. It extends the interest and carry costs, but, so, it's fine.
Is there going to be parking available out there?
yeah, we will work something into the parking in that area
Yeah.
and stuff.
And when do you anticipate starting construction?
Well, I would love to.
On the clubhouse or on the driving range?
On the driving range?
I had someone ask me that day, and it all depends when we would officially take
Yeah.
the land.
Well, we gotta wait for assuming we get this deal done, we probably wouldn't close for a couple months, I'm estimating. Those are some of the kind of legal.
We also have to annex
Annex
that
it, yeah.
land
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
city. And
Yeah.
like we did Chase Davis, I think it
It's
took
a year.
12,
Yeah, it's
a
a
year
year.
to do that, so.
Yeah, I've talked to Bill about that. I think
Yeah.
we can kind of work through that without a bunch of.
Yeah, I don't think there's gonna be, they're not like they're building houses or something.
Right, so if I could get out there, and I've talked to a couple people about developing the land on or on the cornfield side and stuff, I would have to spray it a couple times. My goal would get some seed down as quick as possible on the overall part of it. So then we could at least be using it to hit balls, we wouldn't build the T-station right away, but I would like to think by the 2026 season that it would be completely up, with the T-station.
Fully operational.
Yeah, and if
Got it.
not a little sooner, but I would
We
still
gotta wait
think,
till they get the crops out this year.
yeah,
They've got a farmer that's technically got a lease through the end of the year.
yeah.
So that's one of the things that we gotta deal with.
Yeah.
But like, we can get grass to grow pretty quick, at least over on the other side of it.
So some of the behind-the-scenes stuff, and I say, when we did the Chase Davis project, we had a contingency based on the fact that the land, the environmental studies came back okay, we could get the annexation. We have not been to city council to ask about annexing that property. I don't see there's gonna probably be any pushback, Dave. I mean, there's nothing, this isn't like we're gonna, say it's a piece of land that's gonna have a driving range. So so we've not, the normal steps we went through before, we'd go to them first and say, hey, do you guys feel okay about this? Back and forth. I don't think that's gonna be a problem in this case.
Well, this agreement would also be contingent upon us obtaining an easement from the city too, and we haven't done that. So I prepared a form of purchase agreement that I would expect to approach the Myers family with, and it's got some bullet points in there that are all contingencies. So in my mind, your commitment today, if you make one, while certainly formal in a resolution, is still contingent upon us, Dean and Kyle and I, kind of cinching up this deal and getting this thing closed, which is going to include a couple of these other hurdles.
Brad, actually, mentioning annexation, so this is north-south, right? So the golf course is south of this picture?
Yes.
Number 4 is to the right there.
Okay, down here?
No, that way.
No.
Oh, that way, okay, so this is,
Well, the golf course is actually on the right side of that frame and on the bottom. So it's on both sides.
okay, and so the city of Logansport is here and here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just thinking about the amount of like it has to be contiguous
Yeah,
to
it
annex
is.
it, like I think 25, some percentage. And so I was just thinking, for whatever reason, I was thinking we were just
Yeah, on
here.
both sides, we're bordered up against the city.
Okay, good.
And I think there's that Eberts Road, I don't know if it's somebody told me this or whether it's in the documents, but that needs to be also available in case they want to develop the land further.
Yeah, I saw
That would be
That's the easement.
a shared easement road,
I
right?
think the easement, I'm just kind of thinking roughly broad terms. I think it's going to have to run from Royal Center Pike all the way to the back of the golf course, basically where the park starts back there. Like, I think that's going to be where the access easement would be.
I see.
My goal and what I've kind of, I'll say negotiated so far, Kyle and I talking with them, is pretty much, residential traffic, golf cart traffic, not four-wheelers, not ATVs, and not commercial vehicles unless there's a meeting of the minds with the city that, hey, okay, you're going to develop some homes, we're going to let you use it for commercial purposes until those are done. You know what I mean? I don't want a bunch of semis, driving back there or something, then putting some warehouse back there, and then all of a sudden we've got triaxles. So I'm trying to think about those things, and I think those are that's some of the language you would see in the purchase agreement that's in there.
Have you guys talked to the utilities about the overhead power lines that are in there?
I have not, I know that, well, I'm not going to speak for, I'm sure John Smith is probably generally familiar with what's going on out there because he's going to construct a clubhouse soon. But I don't know anything about that.
I don't know if the power lines are right on the edge of each property, so.
Right.
Yeah, so I hadn't thought about it, you know.
Yeah, that's a good
I
thought.
know they're not on the Myers property.
And they're getting ready to replace some poles in the next couple years or something. I know they were up there looking at them because I'm like, oh, hey, get this one out of here, you know?
They're gonna move them up, so you'll
Yeah.
have plenty of overhead space.
Yeah, and the way it's shaped, I hope to have the tee a little bit farther west so the balls don't leak out on the floor or something like that as much and things. So, yeah.
I presume if you have power there, you could actually hit balls all night long?
Well, if we had lights, if we wanted
That's
to
what
go,
I'm saying.
I don't know if we would want to do that or not. I mean, the summertime, it's light till, 10 o'clock, and I'm not a big fan. We have carts back in at 9 because it still takes our employees a few minutes to get stuff wrapped up, and I don't like them up there when it's pitch dark and stuff.
Conceivable, though.
Yeah, it is, and we will, our vending machine, will take power and
Right.
everything, so.
Okay. Just for our own purposes here, again, this is what I always call a project that's got a lot of gray to it. This obviously is a nonprofit government, so it's not going to be something that money will come back into TIF. So the bottom line is looking at the economic development for the whole community. I think this is the kind of stuff that drives traffic, drives people, then people go to McAllister's when they're done or whatever and that kind of stuff. So I think it fits in that boundary of that. In the back of your section, I've got some stuff as to where to pull from what fund. It somewhat fits the discretionary fund, but I've talked with Dwayne some. I'm kind of interested in maybe just taking out the industrial park. On the very last page, you've got the industrial park right now has 1.6 million available, consolidated 1.1, and our discretionary, we have 133,000. The page before that shows the interest we've brought in so far this year, and if the interest rates keep at this high rate, it's been, wonderful. So far, we've taken in $87,000 this year in interest from those funds, and you could probably expect to have about the same. So let's say 170,000 on top of 130. It still doesn't give us a lot of wiggle room there for we have a lot of discretionary stuff that we've been using for. So what I kind of talked to Dwayne about is that we might look into pulling from the industrial park like we did in the previous times, based on the fact it's economic development. And again, whether those businesses, would be of more that kind of stuff going on, I don't know. I also thought in the whole scope of things, this might be a nice thing. When we get the clubhouse done, this may be something where we can have a relationship of some sort in the economic development stuff where, when Bill Cuppy's taking people around town, they might end up at the golf course when and the nice view you got there and all that kind of stuff, and have some kind of, use that as kind of an economic development center. And if it was allowed, that we could do that. So just some things to think about. I guess the thing we need to talk about is are we more comfortable? Are we comfortable taking out the industrial park fund? And again, that's got about 9 years of life left into it. And to say right now, we have very little more things to be done in the industrial park. We put some signage in last year, but there's not much there. So I think the consolidated fund with the stuff that's going on the east end, it's going to continue to draw a lot out of there. So it's my suggestion we take it out of the industrial park, but again, I also don't have a problem going to the discretionary fund, except that right now, money that comes into the discretionary fund is only going to come from interest and stuff, so we don't have an endless stuff there.
The only thing as you're talking, Mike, just thinking about, when we create our budget, we kind of have an overage amount that we can go over in each of the different TIFs, and I don't have that in front of me, but I don't know where we stand on each of the individual TIFs. to say we need to go over by this amount in order to
Right.
use it up by, because it's all based on
Right.
the termination of those TIF districts. And so there are some funds kind of already said, hey, you can go over by this amount.
Right.
Matt kind of helped us, when we
Right.
went through that. So it might be something to look at. I mean,
Yeah. There's also going to be, at the end of 2025, it's the first of two, one of the, either be entered in 2025, we're going to have to start to work on a budget system. And that's going to be more interesting because it's not clear whether they're going to say you want to have a budget for each TIF district, or if you want to say quality of life, what we're going to get in. And at this point, Baker Tilly hasn't got a read from the legislators as to how that's going to work.
Yeah.
Right now, they're not holding us to any budgets. There's no, the State Board of Accounts isn't saying, hey, wait a minute, you guys went over this, but we are going to, in the timeframe of this transaction, we will hit that, so.
Okay. So what I'm saying isn't going to help you come up with a number today, but I do know we allow for overages from each
Right.
TIF district.
I think
So-
we did the budget last year, we didn't have the seated thing, I think that was not in the budget, and I think discretionary wasn't in there either when we first did it, so.
don't
We actually
think
have done
so.
some changing this year to
Right.
how we do things.
Maybe, I don't know, if we can approve it contingent on getting those numbers
I have them here.
to Dwayne. Oh, do you?
For the industrial park, it was 207,000 by the end of its life, which is in 2031, so it's only 7 years from now. So 207,000 you can spend this year over. For downtown is 81,000. For consolidated is just shy of 67,000, 66,909. And not much in the other ones.
Yeah. Right. Matt, and did we not have any of those allocated for any other uses? Those were all available dollars.
They're all available dollars. Right now, just to note, looking at your income, it's much higher than
Yeah.
was anticipated, to the tune of almost $100,000 in that district. So,
And the income that we're going to have, not just even interest income, but yeah.
yeah,
Well, hell, we'll take
You're talking-
another 50,000 if it's available. I'm not,
It might be nice to not really even feel the hit. That's, over 4 years.
That's my anticipation.
Yeah.
Like you said, from your tax revenue,
Yeah.
when you have a $100,000
Got it.
increase, and then you mentioned interest
Yeah.
income.
Yeah.
on top of that.
Okay. So it's kind of a small amount when you look at the
Well,
annual.
yeah, in that size. And then again, the other thing we also got, we were starting to get money in for the Junction and the Salai Hotel properties also, and then we got the bonding on both of those, except that, we got in $36,000 from the Junction and $71,000 from the hotel. So we have, up to this point, not talked about the interest in those.
Yeah.
We've kind of kept them separate because of the bond, the stuff that's involved, but down the road, yeah, so,
I wouldn't be opposed to the industrial park. I mean, if we know we have $207,000
Right.
now, and
Right.
then we can budget for this payment.
right,
in
because
future
you're only
years.
talking about 85,000
Right.
now. So, I mean, we can, with
It
next year's
it gives us a
budget.
little wiggle room in case something had to happen out there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sounds good.
so. Okay, I think that's all of them. And I say thanks to, Bill Covey couldn't be here today, but he did give, it's in your packet, the stuff he had, and I have talked with him and Dean and Brad and everybody else to say, I'm not a golfer to begin with, but I do understand how nice that facility's become, and I think this, to me, is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's really
I've
nice.
talked to people that had kids that are like playing high school golf, and, not having a driving range is something that they'd like to have, practice and do that stuff, so I think it's something the community needs, so, anyway. All right, and I say, we went ahead and prepared a resolution just because to keep things moving, so we wasn't sure how your guys' negotiation went, so, anyway, I'm gonna make a recommendation, and let me just, I should probably say before I do this, in full disclosure, I am the school board's representative to the Parks Board. I don't believe in this case that I've got a conflict of interest, but just to make it clear that I am the school's representative to the Park Board's representative to the golf course, et cetera, the knee
well, the
bones.
school board attorney doesn't think you have a conflict.
Yeah. We have a lot of conflict. Anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and vote on this, but I don't think it has is a conflict. I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2024-340, for the purchase of some land at the Dykeman Park Golf Course driving range in the total amount of not to exceed, at this point, $260,741.47. That includes the original purchase price of $250,000 plus the interest. Knowing that this could change with potential lengthening of that thing, I don't see that we're going to
Right.
lengthen that out.
Well, Brad, are you saying it'll be like one payment and then 3 additional payments, or one payment and now 4 additional payments, like stretched out over
Well, the
5
way
payments?
it's been presented to you as one payment now and then 3
3,
more.
right.
I can give you the other number over if you want it, but
I don't-
I'd have to just do some quick math, but I have it
Okay,
here.
it's okay, I just didn't.
I don't think we need
if
to.
that's what they're
and
wanting.
Jan Foley noted to me that Ice Miller noted to her, once you go past, I think it's 5 years in TIFs, there needs to be some other
Oh, yeah.
shenanigans
Okay.
going on, so that's a legal term.
You'd be paying, by my calculations, a couple thousand more in interest,
Yeah.
if you stretched it out.
But they're not
But you may be
requiring
earning
it.
more.
The Myers aren't saying we want this over this period. They're just.
No, they're just saying they're
looking to-
flexible now.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, so continuing on with the motion, $260,741.47 total amount, and will come out of the Industrial Park Fund, number 408/4448. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
So purchasing this, we don't have to have it appraised? Because everything we do here, everything has to be appraised.
Yeah,
Everything has to be appraised.
The way the TIF operates, we'll have to have 2 appraisals, but then
So
what's...
what happens if the appraisal doesn't come back the way it's supposed to come?
Well,
back?
that's the interesting part about the TIF district. The city, if the city council did this, they would have to take the appraised price as the price. In TIF districts, we're allowed to, which is, again, kind of the craziness of how this works. We can pay a price above an appraised price.
Is there a certain amount we can go above that price? Or is it unlimited?
It's not, there's no limit. I mean, that's why it's so stupid to have 2 appraisals. In fact, you take appraisals and then...
We've been arguing this
you
for
can pay
years.
any-
Like, we've talked to Ethan Manning about it. It just seems like such a waste to require this for the TIF because it doesn't necessarily impact it's not going to change our decision. We're still going to decide to do it. But we have to spend X number of dollars on 2, agricultural, commercial type appraisals.
It seems like we have such negative going on everywhere we go and turn. So, the first person going, oh my God, they paid $25,000 an acre for that. How who decided, who made that decision? So, that's
I'm
what
not
I'm
pointing to
thinking
you.
about.
Perry did, he did
No,
that.
I'm looking at him.
Yeah. Yep.
That's a very fair question, and it's the exact words that came out of my mouth when we got the first offer, which was much, much higher than that, believe it or not. Double that almost, which, clearly was just off the charts. And what I will tell you is that because of the unique location of that field and the potential for either commercial investment or continued agriculture operations, it's really hard to appraise. But we use the appraisal, I have the appraisal from the Lexington property, from the Davis Road property, which was kind of a foundation for our talks and our negotiations to try to get the Myers family to understand that there are limitations. That you can't go to a municipal body, Kyle and I and Dean can't walk in here and ask you for $50,000 an acre when you have other comps, if you will, around town. And so all of those things drove us from a fairly high number down to kind of something that I think is manageable and justifiable because it's a unique use type property because of its location next to the course. You could have high-valued homes on one side of this soon. You could, theoretically, you could still be farming it. There's somewhere in between those, that's
So how
that's
much
the value.
acreage is left that they want to sell besides this here then?
Yeah, that's a good question. There'll be about 67 to 70 acres
something like
roughly.
that. I think they had just a touch under 80 total.
And what was the price he wanted for the total?
Well, we never, I'll tell you, the number's 1.5 million. I'll say that was never put on paper. These were discussions, but that's what they were.
1.5 for approximately,
80
what's
acres.
100 acres?
80 acres,
80 acres.
yeah. I and Kyle, I don't know, yeah, well, actually, there were some people here in the building behind me, we actually tried, I mentioned this in my letter, we tried to find a developer, and I even went to some private individuals to see if I could find somebody to pony up that number, to buy the whole thing. And there are a lot more complications. We had a meeting at Steinberger with the developer about a month or so ago, which was very educational. There's just things that developers look at that we don't, I'm trying to help Dean build the driving range, you know what I mean? And so the point of all this is that this isn't us just coming here kind of randomly and saying, hey, you have some money and we need it. This has been a process. And I still am not entirely closed on the idea that the rest of that could be purchased at some point, and there could be some fairly quick growth there. But it's a unique use because of the golf course location. It's really hard to appraise. If that answers your question.
Anything else? No? All right, all those in favor indicate by aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Dwayne, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, next we don't have Aaron here, don't have Bill here, so there's no other information. I will say that there's quite a buzz in town about the stuff happening at the junction at the mall, and I think that's been a good project. And I want to thank, Bill and Aaron and Joe at the mall and everybody else that's involved in getting that finally done. I know they have been wanting to have something happen forever as the community, thinking that the mall was dead or whatever. So again, thanks to them for that. I think we are really, I think we are blessed in some ways. I continue to use the word a fire hose of economic development that from our end of having to do the paperwork, all this stuff. I think Logansport is on a very good trajectory where we're heading economic development wise, and I thank those people. And there are some people that are also, thanks to some of the people that are buying some of these properties are local people, and they're buying franchises. And I again thank them for doing that, because sometimes people think oh, this is a national chain and it's out there. There's actually local dollars sometimes that's actually driving some of the stuff, which means they've got faith in Logansport also. So thanks to all those people, and I'm sure that's what Bill, and I want to thank Bill and Aaron and the other people that are kind of behind the scenes, because I think they've actually provided us a environment that seems friendly and seems forward-thinking to have things happening. It really is a situation where, we have a Burger King that moves to B&K's lot, and that was controversial, and then that looks really nice, and then, it's started to lay out to where we have been a place where, people are coming into, and some of the social media stuff about other communities, I look at us versus Peru or Delphi or some other places that they think are wonderful places. We've got a lot happening. So again, I'm thanking Bill, and since they're not here, I can just thank them. They won't be blushing and that kind of stuff. All right, time for public comments. Anybody that wants to come forward and speak? You have to come up here.
Okay. I think for the sake of time, I can send an email based on observing all of this today. But I wanted to do.
You got to put your, there's this microphone. Give your name.
Oh, okay. Jim Barr, 2513 Hasty Hill, and I'm speaking for the Hasty Hill Homeowners Association. There was a meeting a couple weeks back about the Chase project, and I met Bob there a little bit after the meeting, and I had expressed a concern, potential safety concern. He mentioned I could come here and talk about it a little bit. And again, after observing this, I have summarized a few things in a package that I sent to the county. I could do the same type of thing for this group, just so you're aware of it for the sake of time. And it really comes down to a safety concern at the ingress-egress for the Hasty Hill homeowners area. And it kind of goes back to, with the Davis project, there were some changes at that entrance that maybe people aren't really aware of unless you drive in and out of there every day. They lowered the elevation of Davis Road right at that point. If you drive by, you can kind of see there's a little bit of a ramp for the entrance going down to Davis. And what that has done, it's impacted the sight distance to the south, to the left when you're looking, and cars pretty much pop up that hill real quick right now. And that was 20 years ago, and it was, we noticed it at the time, and with the nice road, people went a lot faster as well. But with the new school coming in, that's like 700 or so students in the school and faculty. There's 3 times a day in the morning, midday, and end of the day, there's a lot of traffic. So all we're trying to do is just make awareness as you're thinking about the new project, the development, be thinking about a good location for ingress and egress for that potential traffic. Okay, because it will impact that particular safety issue. When I look at the actual distances, it's marginal in terms of sight distance as you're looking to the left. I think there's a distance of like 390 feet is kind of what the target sight distance is for 35 miles an hour. And again, I can summarize this to you and send it to you. When we talked to the county, they agreed they just painted new double yellow lines, which helped, because part of the problem is we've had some near misses there where somebody's slowing down to turn in, and somebody started to turn out, and somebody passes at really high speeds, potential T-bone type stuff. And then as we walk across pedestrian area, there's some concerns there too. They're also going to maybe make some signage changes as well. But the bigger issue is looking at some of the preliminary stuff. I know it's very early for you thinking about the design of the new area. There is an ingress, egress just north of that entrance coming off of that corner right now on the layout. It's not very far to the right. So now when you have a pop-up effect on the left and then you have people popping in on the right, it's something to be thinking about from a safety perspective. So I'll summarize that and send that to whoever, Bob, I don't know if it goes to you or who would be appropriate to distribute it. To Mike? Oh, Suzanne? Okay. Just for your awareness, and I'd be glad to come back and maybe explain a little more in detail, but I've tried to kind of detail on 3 or 4 pages.
And you've got an association there?
The homeowner, yeah, Hasty Hill homeowner.
You think they're comfortable if they would knock it? I mean, when we're doing construction, it's not going to take much to knock something down.
Well, the problem is
Visibility.
the roadway is lower, right at the entrance. So when they finish the project, we used to come out kind of pretty much straight to Davis, and now it's like a foot or so lower. So we have a little bit of a ramp going down. So what we'd have to do would be major, I think, is where at the top of the hill, the crest of the hill to the south would have to be cut down. I mean, obviously, that would be great, because if you could see, you used to be able to pretty much see to the bridge, and you can't now. It's just a pop-up effect, and when they're going fast, it's kind of like the old, out at Cass Station on 24. You look left and everything looks clear, and you look right, and then you look back left, and somebody's coming up on you really quick. It's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
And you're welcome to pull in there and pull out, because people don't do that very often, but I mean, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's pretty
I
cool.
think that of all the 3 different sets of plans they had, I think all of them had entrance into that residential area coming off of Chase Road.
Well, I think the ones they had on the wall in this meeting, everything had an entrance into Davis right, just at,
Oh, at the bottom.
yeah.
Right past it.
And that almost looks, and again, I'm not going to criticize it. I mean, there's a lot of thought going into this, but it looks like that could be a bypass, roundabout. People could come through off Chase and come through there. There would probably be a lot of people coming in and out of there. And it's just something to think about, because if you're marginal to the south and then you throw in something new to the right, you're impacting an already existing safety issue.
We did talk about trying to make that traffic pattern, not making it so that it's an easy bypass around the roundabout.
Yeah, it looks like it could be.
So it's a slower.
There's unwanted consequences.
Right.
The other thing I noticed on just looking at that, just from a perspective, is one of those only has one entrance. One of those areas, and from a fire standpoint, I don't know how you could have that. A safety issue. If that gets blocked in a storm.
Yeah,
So I mean,
that came up too.
right now there are like 2 entrances on already, existing ingress egress for the farmer area. And I mean, I don't know what's the problem with using those. Again, I'm not involved in the detail. I just wanted to create an awareness, because you guys wouldn't know about that unless you pulled in and out of it. That's all it's aimed at, is awareness as you're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Every time you pull out, and then with the school, it's in the last years when it's really gotten more significant.
Sure, more traffic, more issue.
Rushing to get the kids to school on time and all that. Pop up that hill.
I know there's been some discussion also Smith Street, which is not a gigantic street, but also have a back outlet then also there. But,
Yeah, it would seem like maybe coming in off of Smith Street and then going through both areas up to Chase. That would kind of 2 entrances, exits for all places. So if you have a safety issue or emergency issue, you have a way to get in. Again, I know it's really early, and that was, I think, why Bob mentioned I could come in and just kind of make sure you're thinking about it as you're doing some of this planning. This is the first time I've
Yeah.
Any place like this has been pretty cool.
Oh, we're very cool here. You should come every month. Yeah, I'm trying to think who else we need to have the loop, whether planning or, I mean,
Might just,
I think one thing would be wise is depending on what population density is finally selected there, I saw 3 different options.
yeah.
Depending on the population density, we'll want to have a traffic study done to determine the amount of increased traffic they anticipate having on the Chase, Davis.
And Smith.
Street. So that would probably drive development requirements for request.
And maybe they look at the actual site distance to the south.
They would.
That would be a fact. I think NDOT did that, and maybe it's right on marginal, I don't know.
But even though the site civil designer that they hired, construction company to do this,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
but it would be highly dependent on population density, if you have 50 homes. or-
right. Well, and.
Yeah, my guess is it's gonna be somewhere between there. It won't be 100, it won't be 280, it'll be
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle.
I think the average is like 2.5 cars per household.
Yep.
So that could be another 700 on top of what the schools kind of brought in, about 700. And the schools multiple times a day, so it all adds up.
Yeah.
And,
There'll be a developer that's gonna have their own, you say what density they wanna have, and then say, then you get the planning department and the other departments, and probably not, we're probably like the least of the, of who's gonna make the final decisions is probably not this,
Right.
this board, but we're gonna sure make sure that it gets taken
It's
care
a
of.
handover, because you guys don't.
Right, right, exactly,
But be based upon having.
right, have a contingencies.
Overall perspective, if it's coming, the traffic's still coming down from the circle, yeah, there may be more, but you can see it.
Yeah.
What I'm mainly want to point out is you got one pop-up effect to the left, and now we're going to have one to the right. That's not good.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that there's not a roundabout at High Street, that they talked about that at one point, and
Well, that still wouldn't impact this.
well, I'm just saying, just, the backed up flow, you get people backed up there.
Yeah, the real issue is simply, you look, it's clear, and half a second later, somebody's on top of you.
Yeah.
Whether there's a roundabout or stoplight, that's the real issue, and 35 is the speed limit, but, there's, and they could help by patrolling it more often, that's fine, that's kind of intermittent, though, the real issue is the sight distance, and when you're dealing with that, having that issue on one side is not good, but having it on both, because you'd have some pop-up from the right, pop out,
Yeah.
So that's the whole point, is to create awareness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And I'd be glad to send kind of a summary
Yeah.
to you with some
Thank you.
pictures and things like that.
Yeah, you can get it to any one of us, and we'll get it
Okay,
to the right people.
all right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Any other public comments? Matt?
Yeah, Matt Llewellyn, don't live in town, but this on 400 Water Street, a few others. I just want to commend this commission, members. I mean, you guys do, I'm sure Perry's following, you guys get some negative comments around. But the news that comes out like last Friday, because the harder decisions you guys make in here. I sat on this for 8 years, and through some of those years, I saw a lot of pass-through dollars just go to the governing bodies, and they don't even get the full amount. So you guys are making some really hard decisions like today, that are truly making a difference. On paper, they may not ever say that Jimmy John's, Dunkin', and all the mall was happened because of you guys. It did. You guys were making tough decisions back then that was vacant all for over a decade. And so I know it's tough. I know you guys get a lot of negatives, so I'd like to just commend you guys for the efforts you're doing, the risk you're taking to make our community a better place, and like I said, get people to want it.
Yep.
I mean, I got more developers talking to us about projects than we have in the last 15 years.
That's great.
Kudos to you guys.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, any comments from the board? No?
Here we
Perry?
go.
Your last chance.
Quiet today.
With Bill not here, without Bill here, you just gonna take.
Somebody said to me,
your
"Is you're
steam.
gonna make it an hour and a half, 2 hours, what are you gonna do?" I said, "We'll keep quiet."
All right. If there's no comments, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
There it is.